All right, we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate you guys being with us. It is BTB Analytics. We are back for another weekly edition of the NFL show. It's week 16, the thick of it in the month of December. It's what, 3 more weeks, right, until the regular season is over, which
It'll be here.
is completely bonkers. But nonetheless, we got a lot of high stakes games to talk about. We're going to go through certain key matchups, talk about model predictions, perhaps other angles in these games. So we got the gang all back together. It's going to be a good show. Let's get into it.
Give a damn about a hater when I feel like it. Not today, not today, not today, not tomorrow. Get out my way, please. I'm trying to get paid. Not today.
Yeah, Steve, it's good to see that you're still alive and well after your bout with the food poisoning on the sea, right?
Oh,
you
man,
had
throw the whole vacation away, man. Weather ruined the pre-cruise stuff, the food poisoning. As soon as I got onto it, then we had a day where we were supposed to be at Coco Cay in the Bahamas. That got canceled. We couldn't even sail because of the wind advisory.
Oh.
But yeah, that might have been the most negative EV play I've made all season, was taking this vacation.
I was gonna say that you look a little slimmer in the jawline.
Oh yeah, no, that's the best part about food poisoning. Listen, as a pharmacist, I will tell you, that's my get rich $1 billion scheme. If I can make a drug that's just virulent enough to give you food poisoning without risking actual life harm, weddings, bikini pictures, trips, oh man,
that's brutal. Yeah, who needs Ozempic when you got food poisoning, right?
Exactly.
All right, I digress a little bit. Yes, we are in the thick of it. Like I said, boys, it's NFL Week 16, so we got a bunch of good matchups to talk with you today. So let's just jump right into it. Let's not beat around the bush anymore. Let's start with Thursday night football. Why not? Los Angeles Chargers going up against the Denver Broncos. So we make this one a pick 'em. This opened at 3 and is now at 2.5 at circa. Some retail at 3 out there still, but so we show a little bit of edge given what our numbers say to the Broncos side, but not enough for it to be a play for us here. So I'll maybe tease or save a bit of analysis for either off the numbers or maybe just the end of it here, because that is I did choose this game for off the numbers. So I want to just start with you, Seth, on this one. Is this like how much I don't say weirdness. Oops, excuse me. But number one, it is Thursday night football. Number two, you have a rookie quarterback in Bo Nix coming in, which, as we've talked about ad nauseum at times, and there's just the general variance that you have with rookie quarterbacks at times. But these are two teams that are playing really well overall. Like, both have winning records. There's playoff implications in this one. So what's your 30,000 foot view on this one? And given what the numbers say, how do you think this one shakes out?
Yeah, I mean, these teams are actually quite similar, mostly on the defensive side of the ball. I think, which is maybe not how I thought these teams would be coming in, and maybe I was wrong in that. But we have LA as the overall fourth best defense, and then we have Denver as the number 1 ranked defense in our database. And then when we look at pass versus rush, Denver number 1 passing defense. Rushing, they are 4th against the rush, and then the Chargers 7th against the pass, 11th against the rush. And then when we look at the quarterback play, we're actually getting similar quarterback play, which, again, another kind of anomaly for me in my numbers, or at least my mental model. Nix is adding 2.5 points per game, whereas Herbert's adding 3.7. So, I mean, Herbert's giving them a little bit of the edge, but obviously he's not a rookie. I don't know. This to me just does seem like a defensive battle. And to be honest, this is how Denver has kind of exceeded expectations in my mind.
Sure.
Defensive echo rate, 40% of Denver's drives are getting to the 40 or better, and the Chargers 44% of their defense, their opponents' drives are getting to the 40 or better. So both these defenses, again, are really, really good, and I won't be surprised if it's a very similar game to Chargers Kansas City we saw a couple of weeks ago, where it's kind of a slugfest, low scoring. That's what I'm forecasting for this, and I think that's where the model is kind of picking up when you're, just slugging it out. And the market seems to agree. All the all the 3-110s are gone.
Yeah, it's their expensive threes if they exist, right?
Yeah, 118 I think is the cheapest.
Right. Okay. All right, Steve. Yeah, I don't know if you have a similar sentiment to this one. Like, do you think there's going to be weird TNF fluke shit happening, or do you think, to Seth's point, we'll see a good old fashioned Thursday night football defensive slugfest with this one?
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think it's weird. I think it's right on brand for Thursday night football. Yeah,
Okay,
this has
yeah.
a low scoring game kind of written all over it. You look at these two teams here, like Seth mentioned, the defense is what I'm really expecting to pick up on here. Really don't feel comfortable taking either side. You can see here the model has a lean towards the Broncos here at the +3 because we make this a pick 'em. But when you look at these two teams, there's a little bit of concern, I guess, if you want to say that way. The Broncos, listen, they made work of the Colts. I think it was like they went on like a 24-0 run after that Taylor fumble before they got into the end zone. But you
Yeah.
look back at it, kind of peeling the curtain back. I'm not taking away anything from the Broncos defense. It is legit. But they all also have beaten the likes of Anthony Richardson, Jameis Winston, Gardner Minshew, Kirk
Yeah.
Cousins, Bryce Young, and Spencer Rattler in this sort of win streak that they're on right now. Look at the 6 of their last 8 games. And then on the Chargers standpoint, again, we look at this team, and this is a team that I said a few weeks back I really hadn't paid that much attention to realize how good they were defensively, and the numbers back that. And then you see they got absolutely mollywopped by the Buccaneers. The Chargers scored 17 in the first half and then got outscored 30-0 from that point on when they were up 17-10. But when you take a closer look at that, they really got beat on explosives, right? You look at Mike Evans, 57-yard touchdown reception. He had a 35-yard touchdown reception. He had a 23-yard reception on 3rd and 5, set up by the Rashard White 11-yard touchdown run. So I don't know how sustainable that really is when we talk about high variance plays. So I'm not ready to, sound the alarm on a Chargers defense just yet, especially against a Denver offense, which is bottom 3rd in success and echo rates offensively. Like, this is not the team that I think is going to exploit it, where we know Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers can definitely do some damage. So, for me, the other key thing is looking at the injury report, right? I mean, Herbert got banged up on, kind of all throughout that game. There was like an estimated injury report because they play on Thursday.
Yeah.
Estimated to be limited with the ankle injury, which he already had kind of coming into last week's game, along with the leg contusion. So, I mean, you put all that together, again, this just screams low-scoring dogfight. If I had to pick a bet on this game, for me, I'm staying away from the sides. I'm taking the under 42, and I think it opened at 42.5. So it's early, right? The market's kind of going that way. We'll see where it closes, but I'm with you. I mean, listen, whatever the opposite of grab your popcorn is, that's what this game's going to be.
That's
Yeah, I
just
don't know if-
Thursday night.
Yeah. Exactly right. So to both you guys' points, yeah, it's I don't really disagree with obviously any of the numbers or just kind of any of the sentiments generally speaking, but to hone in on a couple of different points and why I like Denver in this one, and I chose them on the money line for my off the numbers. Trying to look at, what have you done for me recently? Last 5, last 6 games. How are these teams? How are they compared to the early season versus later in the season? And just, is one team or the other basically trending up, trending down? Just what's kind of going on? Is there some other signal in the noise? So over the last 5, or excuse me, for the season, LA Chargers, again, with Herbert still probably borderline top 5 quarterback overall in the league. They've had a middle of the road defense, not a great offensive skill position room. They have Ladd McConkey, he's great, but they're 17th overall net EPA per play on the season. However, last 5, they've dropped all the way to 25th overall on offense, 26th passing and 24th rushing. They've had some injuries. I think Ladd's been out a game or 2, and J.K. Dobbins, went out. So I don't even know who their top running backs are anymore. So they've really struggled to find the consistency on the offensive side of the ball more recently in the last 5. And on the flip side, we mentioned like Denver's D. This is not a last 5 or 6 situation. Their defense has been good all season long. Seth, you mentioned some of the numbers at the start too, but still, even the last 5, first overall passing defense, second overall rushing defense. That's the one thing for me where I'm like, okay, if there's gonna be something that will continue to transgress, or not, that's not the right word. What's what I'm looking for? Week to week, it's going to carry over. It's probably the defensive side of the ball, and not relying on Knicks, being a rookie, high variance. Yes, I think he's got like 5 turnovers last 2 weeks. So he's kind of regressing, or has regressed to some of his early season struggles where he was turning the ball over a lot. But I haven't seen enough from the Chargers and the offensive side of the ball to think that, to your point, guys, low scoring game, like defensive struggle. Which defense do I trust more generally to make a play or two? I'm rolling with the Chargers. We make this, or excuse me, rolling with the Broncos. We make this game a pick 'em. So you're giving me a 50-50 game, and I can buy it at 50 or 43%. So I got them at plus 130. That's what I'm rolling with.
I think it makes sense. And I mean, we were on the Chargers when they played the first time, and the Chargers got to a comfortable lead. And quite frankly, it was a nail biter there at the end. I think they were winning by 21.
Yeah.
I think they ended up only winning by less than a touchdown. So, I mean, they may have kind of a blueprint of how they want to attack the Chargers here that they kind of learned, from that first matchup. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a good bet. I think, unfortunately, if you want to side here, I think you're forced now into the money line because the threes getting knocked out at 110 is just, you're just paying way too much for it.
Yeah.
You break even 54%. I mean, it's now a negative EV bet to do that.
Right.
And you're going to lose a lot. You're not going to push as much right on 2.5. You can't push. So
right.
I think you're forced now. If you want to be a Broncos backer, I think you got to take the money line.
Yeah. So we'll see. It should be a good old fashioned, like you said, Steve, slugfest Thursday night football. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and to your point, Seth, they were up 23-0, end up winning 23-16. Oh. They let Denver score 16 points in the fourth quarter. So
there you go. All right. That's the Thursday night game. Let's move on to the Sunday slate. A couple of good divisional matchups in this one. Let's start with the Steelers and the Ravens. So this one opened at 6.5, and really no significant, no real line movement either way. We make the number 5 in favor of the Ravens here, so no slight lean for the model's perspective to the Steelers side, but not an official play for us. Steve, I wanna start with you on this one because Seth and I talked a little bit because we were on the Steelers last week against the Eagles. They didn't cover, and we talked about the concern that if George Pickens was out, which he did end up being out, what that does to this team. And shout out Tage Seth. He had a great nugget on Twitter today about this. And I think this just kind of underscores the significance of what we were talking about too. But when Pickens and Russ have played together, their offensive success rate, or excuse me, passing success rate drops from 46% to 36%. So a pretty significant drop off. And I don't know if you guys have heard if he's going to be in or not.
When Pickens is out.
Correct. When he's out, their overall success rate drops from 46% to 36% on passing downs. So a material effect for one individual, and they really don't have a ton of guys behind him who can pick up the slack, so to speak. So again, Steve, you saw the numbers from what we make it here. So if Pickens is in, let's just assume that for the moment's sake, how do you think this is a situation where the Steelers can either come in and 1, upset, or 2, at least pull out the cover here?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough for me. And to tie the bow on that, and last I saw, I do not believe he practiced today. I think he did not practice today, and neither did TJ Watt, which I think that is something that I'm more concerned about, quite frankly. I mean, I'm concerned about Pickens, don't get me wrong, but I think that is another layer that, quite frankly, that scares me more because in that Eagles game, I mean, and it was late, right? Eagles kind of definitely imposed their will, but that Steelers defense did not look characteristic like the Steelers defense that we've come to know and love, especially late in that game. And that's my concern. If you have TJ Watt out and all of a sudden that defense is sort of not wrapping up, not making tackles, giving up explosive plays, what does that look like against this pretty potent Baltimore offense, led by, the King and Lamar? And so that to me is the concern because we saw in that Eagles game, if you get down, the Steelers are not equipped to kind of get into this sort of shootout, right? They're the quintessential slugfest team here. And so if Baltimore goes up 2 scores, what does that do to Russ and Co., especially if Pickens can't play? So I think for me, this is one of the ones where I'm pretty glad that we're not on this. You can see the model definitely has a small edge towards taking the Steelers. You give me more than 7.5, I definitely, or more than 7, excuse me. Give me 7.5 or more. I definitely have a strong reconsider. This is a divisional game, 2 foes who know each other very well. So I don't think this will be a blowout by any means, but it does feel kind of gross.
Yeah. I mean, and does it get to 7.5 if both of those guys are out?
Right, exactly.
2 huge pieces. Yeah, I mean, I think here is to me, if you have 100% healthy, you're looking at good offense, good defense matchup here, going against basically the number 1 offense in Baltimore or the number 2 offense in Baltimore, and going up against, one of top 5 defenses in Pitt. But, I mean, that Pitt Eagles game was quite interesting, where it felt like it came down to one possession. That fumble really changed the momentum, and the Eagles were able to kind of just sit on the ball, and they just grinded clock, and they really didn't even see. I think they saw the ball one more time, and it just wasn't enough. I don't think Baltimore is capable of doing that. And we know Baltimore's weakness is the pass. This is a pass funnel team. Everybody and their mom. See if you could throw against them. But maybe even high school Gino could throw against them. But who are they throwing to? Just like you've highlighted, and that's a brilliant stat from Tage. Who are they going to throw to? Because it looked like they didn't have a lot of options last week. Freiermuth, I guess, is probably your best quote unquote next man up. But again, this is not going to be the same pass funnel if that shitty secondary and safeties know there's only one guy you can throw to. You're not going to get the same effect. So I don't know. I mean, this Baltimore offensive echo rate, 58% of their drives getting to the 40 or better. That's pretty impressive. On the defensive side, again, Pittsburgh only allowing 45% of their opponents to get to the 40 or better on their drive. So, this is, to me, a classic good offense, good defense matchup. But again, we have a lot of questions on Pitt. I think it's a stay away. It's a stay away from us in the first place, but I think it's fastly approaching where the market's going to start to want to back Baltimore here.
At least going into last week's matchup, Seth, I wonder if you can just pull up real quick or reference for us, where the Steelers fall on the game variance map. Because one other thing I want to highlight on the matchup map there with these two teams is you look at the pass rate over expected for both teams, and it's pretty significantly favoring the run, right? The Steelers almost 8%, Ravens just over 8% in negative pass rate over expected. So in other words, both teams are running the ball at 7 or 8% clip more than an average team. And for context or additional reference there, the Steelers aren't actually a good rushing team. Efficiency wise, they're 23rd in rushing success rate and 26th in overall rushing EPA. So they schematically their tendency is to rush the ball more, but they're not doing it very well.
Agreed.
So it will be fascinating to see if they do try to key in on that pass funnel that is the Baltimore defense. So
yeah, I don't think unfortunately, this is like the worst time for Pickens to get injured. And I think he has a grade 2 hamstring. Like it's not an injury that is
not the hammy, man. Not the hammy.
Yeah, it's a fickle injury. So yeah, I don't have a lot of faith. I think borderline, this is like you almost got to start to put a case together for being a Baltimore backer under 7.
Yeah.
Especially with those injuries. I think if both those guys are ruled out, I would think this gets to 7, maybe 7.5. I mean, it is a divisional game, and we have seen Tomlin do, his magic out of the, rabbit out of the hat, where he just gets more with less. But this just seems divisional matchup. The Baltimore lost the first matchup. This just seems like maybe a little bit too much for Pittsburgh, in my opinion.
Sure. All right, we'll see. Should be hopefully is a close one though. At least, especially if Pickens plays. So that'll be good to see what happens there. So, all right, let's move on down the line. 2 in the books. We got 3 more to go. Let's go to one that we have a model play on officially. Let's talk about the Arizona Cardinals going up against the Carolina Panthers here. So this one opened at 4. That circa is at 4.5 at most places. Actually, Pinnacle's earlier today was hanging at 3.5. Are they still hanging that? Let me see. Yeah, Pinnacle, it's an expensive 3.5, but 3.5 nonetheless. So we are on this one. We make the number 7. So we are riding with the Cardinals on this one as an official model play. So, oops, missed that. Okay, so for this one, like I almost want to slightly recuse myself because I hate this pick. I hate like the.
Oh yeah.
What else is new?
Yeah. Yeah, as the resident Cardinals fan, it's at this point in the season, it gives me a little shaking in my boots here. So before I start talking nonsense, and I want to be talked off the ledge here, so to speak, because going back to what I talked about with the Broncos and Chargers elements, so the Panthers are not that bad of a team when you kind of zoom in a little bit and look at what they've done or what they have been since Bryce Young got the starting job back, especially offensively. Defensively, different different story. But at least offensively, they look competent, and he looks like he's sort of found some footing. I think they are number 14th overall over their last 6 in passing offense, and I wouldn't say strength on strength, but Cardinals are also 15th in passing defense over that same span. So I don't know if the edge, Seth, is coming from the fact that it's Kyler Murray's career EPA, or where you think the edge is coming from this one. I want to get your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, it's 100% from quarterback play, and I'm with you on this one. I hate this play. I don't really like it, and I'll tell you why. This just screams the same exact thing we had when Carolina played Tampa Bay. And yes, Tampa Bay can put up points, but that defense is not something you really are going to hang your hat on. Arizona, 12th best passing offense, 8th best rushing offense. Again, that's great. That's what we're going to need here. But when we look on defense, Arizona, 22 number best stopping the pass, 22 stopping the rush here for Arizona's defense. So it's not something that you can kind of hope that they're going to be able to challenge this Carolina offense. And like you said, they have been able to take steps forward. And the one thing I think is more important than anything, Arizona's defensive echo rate, 56%, meaning 56% of their opponent's drives get to the 40 or better. It's going to be really difficult to cover a huge number 4, because a field goal here is what knocks you out, or a push. Yeah. And I don't like it because of that, but that's exactly right. The model here is picking up Murray, 2.7 points added per game in his last 10. Young, -4 points. So, I mean that's a little bit different than what you're saying. This is a boomer bust kind of team, quite frankly, Carolina, and we saw them struggle last week against a team that's not very good in Dallas. So I'm curious to see, but it does look like the game plan, if you can pull it off, is get to Bryce Young. Sacks are the key. The question I have is, why do we believe Arizona is going to be able to do that?
Steve, give me some hope, man. Give us all some hope. We need a Cardinals cover here. What's the recipe?
Yeah, I mean, maybe this is not what we want to hear here, but I actually love this bet. And listen, I was on the Bryce Young train. I was on the Bryce Young's rejuvenated, revitalized, coming up those last few games. And then we saw what happened against this Cowboys team, a Cowboys team that's full of backups. Now, granted, they're getting healthier on defense, getting Micah Parsons back and some other key pieces, but the Cowboys defense is not, the Cardinals defense, it's not that much worse than the Cowboys defense. And quite frankly, the Cardinals defense is better against the run than the Cowboys are. We talk about them being a run funnel every week, and they're not that much worse against the pass. So, for me, seeing what Cooper Rush was able to do offensively against them, against the Carolina defense, gives me a lot of hope for Kyler. But to you guys' point, the defense is kind of what we're expecting to sort of kind of fail us here, right?
Yeah.
And so, from that standpoint, we saw Bryce really take a huge step back. Now, is that one game out of the 5 or 6 since he's been back here? Time will tell here, but you saw a really, really human Bryce Young. You saw a defensive game plan that can rattle him. And if you stop Chuba Hubbard, I don't think Bryce Young's at the point just yet where he can put a team on his back for sure. It's a balanced attack here, and as Chuba goes, I think Carolina goes as well. So I'm not. Maybe this is just fool's talk here, but I actually feel pretty good about this one.
Yeah, I guess for me, again, putting the fan hat on as well on this one. Like if they're going to cover, it's going to be because of the Cardinals' defense, not necessarily their Murray and their offense. Even though that's where we're deriving the edge from, just kind of recency bias and taking what they've done in a vacuum this season alone. Their defense has overperformed relative to expectations. I will say that they are tied for 8th overall in the league in passing touchdowns allowed, tied for 7th in average depth of target, tied for 9th in sack percentage as well. So they have been able to generate some decent results on defense, and can they do enough to rattle a young, still rookie quarterback basically in this one? I hope so, but again, it's really difficult for my mentals to align with what the data is pointing to here.
But I want to point something out. If you look at a per play metric like EPA, sure, Arizona and Dallas are a lot more similar. But when we look at tackle rate, Arizona 56% of their opponents' drives getting to the 40 or better, only 53% for Dallas. So, that let's just round it to one possession a game. There's your backdoor. There's your not cover, right? Like, and I think there are a lot of other, success rate. Dallas has a higher success rate. Like, this just reeks of Tampa Bay, Carolina 2 weeks ago. This is the exact thing we said. Yes, Tampa Bay, they can throw the ball, they can score points, but they can't stop Carolina. And that was exactly the issue. They couldn't stop Carolina. Now, we probably should have covered that game, quite frankly. They were basically on the goal line and ended up having to take a field goal. And that would have probably been the cover, but I don't know. I mean, I guess we had 7 there, 6.5. We have 4 here. We have a lot more push opportunities. So, but yeah, I don't know. Carolina's tricky here. I mean, the one good thing here is when we're looking at like our rookie assumption, you get the same exact number if you use all of Bryce Young's game for his whole career, or you use our rookie assumption. You only use, a limited sample for whatever since he's been over 12 games. So you get the same exact number. So again, I think that's all quarterback play. So Kyler Murray's going to have to play like out of his mind, and I think you're going to have to sack Young.
Yeah, 2 things real quick. One, Seth, for those who may be new here, can you talk about when we say rookie assumption, people say, well, Bryce Young's not a rookie. Can you just say what we mean by that?
Yeah, so basically we do some fancy math for taking the first 6 home starts, 6 away starts, and we basically categorize all quarterbacks within that category. Once they go outside of those 12 games, they're basically using 100% all of their own stats. The reasons we do this are complicated, but they can boil down to this. It's more accurate to do this.
Yeah. And then my second thing here is just I want to get your thoughts on this, because what I'm hearing, are you when you're saying that this sort of, the ick, for a lack of a, better term, and relate to the Gen Zers watching this, are you more concerned that Carolina is going to kind of cover throughout and we're not going to have a fighting chance throughout this game? Or are you afraid that of the last minute garbage time backdoor of how we lose this bet? Like,
I mean, pick your poison here. I like, for my blood pressure's sake, I hope it's the back door, but I think it's probably more of the latter. I think a lot more game states where it's more of just a back and forth.
Okay.
And you're really never covering. Okay. Or if you're covering, you go from covering to not covering, to not covering, which the kind of writing's on the wall, and you're just decaying to this 2.5 spread because one of these teams is going to win by a field goal. Yeah. I'm just my concerns boil down to, can Arizona slow Carolina down at all? Yeah. And I don't know that they can.
Yeah. I don't know. I think we've only had one other official play on the Cardinals maybe this year. I can't remember off the top of my head. It definitely has not been a lot.
We played them San Francisco. We played them Seattle.
They covered. Yeah.
But they didn't cover against Seattle.
No, San Francisco.
The first time, but San Francisco.
Okay, really?
Right? Yeah, we were on when Pyro threw the pick 6.
Memory's shooting. Memory's going bad.
We came out right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've been on them 3 times. This is, I think, our 4th time.
Oh wow! Oh, this is the 4th. All right, fair enough.
I think so. Yeah,
my memory's going bad anyway. So
I know the model liked them against Buffalo week 1. I know we didn't end up betting it because we couldn't get. There was a 7.5 for like a
yeah. Okay. All right, we'll see. Yeah, this is one of 2 official plays for us this week. Well, that's the first one. Let's just talk about the other one. Speaking of like ick factor or just kind of weirdness and unknown on this one,
don't get it here.
Let's talk about the Colts and the Titans in this one. So this opened at 4.5, and I think after the news broke officially that Will Levis is going to be out, Mason Rudolph is going to be in, I think the market moved after that. Someone, maybe one of you guys can correct me if I'm wrong if the timestamps are off, but it's basically now 3.5.
Yeah, that's a reopen with the news of Rudolph.
Yeah, so it's basically now 3.5 throughout the market. We are on, and we gave out Colts minus 4.5 in this one, unfortunately. So yeah, Rudolph in, Levis out in this one. I don't have much nose on this one, to be frank, but like the uncertainty with Rudolph coming in. Is this his first game, Seth, starting this year, or Steve? Do you guys know?
No, Will Levis was injured early in the year.
Was he? Okay.
I don't remember
if that was.
I think it was this year. 3rd start, I believe.
Okay. All right. So talk a little bit, Seth, through the analysis of the difference in outcomes between what our numbers say with Levis versus Rudolph, and what you think the game script and game state has to be for us to pull out a cover here.
Yeah, it all comes down to just like the Cardinals. It comes down to quarterback play. And it's funny to me because our actual numbers dislike Rudolph more than they actually like Will Levis. And we were still on, the Colts, and our model still points in that direction, but it, firmly makes this number 7 for the Colts, no matter what you do with Anthony Richardson's numbers. And I think that's kind of a little bit concerning because these teams are pretty much dog shit. Anthony Richardson, -1 point added per game. Rudolph, -0.6 points added per game. So you're not really putting your hat there. Now, obviously, there's a little bit more nuance to Richardson, in my opinion, because his EPA can look a little bit different than a typical quarterback. He can run the ball a lot. So that's not just purely passing.
Sure.
But these teams are pretty evenly matched, to be honest with you. Now, the one thing I will say is Tennessee is last in the division, not a lot to play for. I believe they have been eliminated, and their next 3 games are all division games. They're 1-2 in the division.
Oh, wow.
They've struggled. They beat the Texans, but then now here they go. They got to play the Colts, the Jags, and the Texans in their last 3 games. They're not really playing for a lot. So I don't know. This is one where you just kind of you bet with the model, and it kind of sucks. I went ahead and I did a very noob thing, but this has been a very unique season, and I think it's a big learning for me going forward. College was not like this. NFL was not like this last year. There has not been a bigger emphasis this season, in my opinion, to betting early. In fact, I think us betting early has been more detrimental because there's been way more buyback. It is clear that there are way more smart people in the market than there's ever been. I mean, you're seeing RAS moves get bet back at the end of the week and go through the number RAS's bet. I mean, you're just seeing things you typically do not see, and there's not as much advantage in trying to chase early numbers because, quite frankly, midweek numbers have actually been a little bit better for us, and it's cost us 3 bets this season where we ended up losing based off of a worse number. Our model's sitting at 53% right now. We'd be sitting something, 54, 55%, which doesn't seem like a big deal, but those wins or losses add up. I cashed out of the 4.5 and I took the 3.5. Like, I am not going to get burned on this 4. Quite frankly, I think I'm being paranoid, and I think I'm going to get fucked either way because I think Tennessee can easily win this game, easily cover. We'll see what we're going to get at Anthony Richardson. Obviously, these teams are in 2 different states.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're going to hear the touts talk about bounce back spot after a team. The record, the team's getting blown out by blah, 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 or 60% on the spread, whatever. I don't know. Maybe that shit's real. But, you have a divisional game here. Can Anthony Richardson do what they're going to do? But, who are the Titans? I don't have answers for you. These numbers, their defense sucks. 30th against the pass, 30th against the rush. In my numbers, but no, actually, I'm sorry. Tennessee 21st against the pass, 15th against the rush. Indy 15th against the pass, 12th against the rush. And then on offense is where Tennessee's really struggled. 30th passing, 30th rushing. So does this offense get better with Rudolph? It's hard for me to see that.
Yeah, I agree. And Steve, I want to get your 2 cents on this too, because you asked the question like who are the Titans, but flip that around to the Colts side and say, do we know, like, are we comfortable in saying we know what Anthony Richardson is, and that is basically just a wildly unstable, unpredictable quarterback at this point in his career. He, out of 35 quarterbacks who meet the criteria, need like 250 plays in this threshold here, but he is dead last. There's 35 qualifying quarterbacks here, so he's dead last in completion percentage, dead last in adjusted EPA per play, number 1 overall in air yards. Okay, dead last in completion percentage over expected. So like it's insane. So like backing that is, to your point, Seth, and giving me a lot of the heebie-jeebies on this one as well. So Steve, I don't know, man. Are you kind of on the same boat here? Like, what is there that we can feel warm or fuzzy about? I need something.
Yeah, I don't know about warm and fuzzy. I mean, this is to me, it's the battle of who's the less shitty team. Quite frankly, and there's a lot of similarities here, and I think you have to give that nod to the Colts. To, like Seth mentioned, this is a team here. You're looking at, can Anthony Richardson really be the difference here? Because we've seen what Will Levis has done, and quite frankly, the best thing that Will Levis has done for the Tennessee Titans, for NFL fans, is give us a meme-worthy picture of him damn near every week he started. And we're going to miss that this week. And that to me is the biggest, shame about this game. But yeah, I don't really know how you can sort of hang your hat with any real confidence, kind of looking at this. We'll throw in the factor of Mason Rudolph and what that looks for this team. But, Tennessee Titans, they are technically speaking ever so slightly a pass funnel team, looking at with their defensive strengths and where they kind of look at or line up at as run versus pass. But I don't know if this is the team where you want to do it if you're the Colts, right? I don't know if Anthony Richardson is the one that can take advantage of that, because to me, he's just a slightly less volatile, less, I guess slightly lower ceiling, higher floor version of Jameis Winston, meaning that you get some good stuff. You kind of highlight the air yards. You're going to get a guy who's going to throw the ball and he can throw it a mile, but he's going to make the mistakes here. He's going to have that sort of costly decision. Is Tennessee the team that can really take advantage of that? I'm not convinced, but I also don't like, more than a field goal, just as a, from a fan standpoint here. So Seth, I'm with you. I think the 4.5 buy, cash out, rebuy at 3.5 and a reopened is half paranoid, but half smart. And I'll commit one way when we get the final box score.
Fair enough. Yeah, and fuck it, I'll say it's 100% paranoid. I'll speak for myself here. I'm not. I mean, both those things for me, I've learned this season is like, yeah, we were, because we saw it last year, like where if we did not act in the first 24 hours, pretty much so much value was evaporated. Yeah. I don't know what's going on in the market this season, but it's just, there's just a million different players, I guess, and everyone's got different opinions, and it's caused it so basically there's no incentive to bet right away. Mostly any great numbers are still available. Like, we haven't really missed very much, although we missed Baltimore minus 13.5 last week, which pissed me off.
Yeah, that's right. But no, yeah, I mean, if it sounds like we're bitching, so to speak, a little bit, I don't. If you pay attention to the industry, there's a lot of other really well respected people and groups, in my opinion, that have shared similar sentiments. I'm sure you guys have seen this commentary floating around too. But yeah, basically the efficiency of the market this year has seemed. Already it was next to none. The most efficient liquid market in the world is NFL size and totals, right? But it seems to have potentially kicked up another notch somehow, some way. So yeah, been a kind of a weird, funky season as far as that goes. But we're still, Seth's pointed out, we're the model's 53% right now. We're coming off a pretty good week. We'll talk on that in a little bit here, but still a few games to go in terms of volume for us. We'll see what happens. We'll see what shakes out. But yeah, definitely been a weird season. So,
and quarterback play has been weird too. Like this, I don't know. This is just like a really weird, like where we have like a lot of rookies. We had a lot of rookies last year, and then we have a lot of rookies this year. So we have like a lot of people in these limbo. Now, I will say with both of these forecasts, these, we go with the more conservative thing. So, both forecasts agree with each other. What do I mean by that? When we relax that rookie assumption, or if we keep the rookie assumption, we got the same number for both of these games. So, you can hang your hat on a little bit more that, okay, we're using as many games as we possibly can for Young and for Richardson, which is not that many, 12 observations. It's very, very limited and small sample size, but,
yeah. I'll have to see. I'll try to have it for next week. I'm having a hard time finding it right now. But 2 years in a row, back-to-back years, there's been records set for the number of quarterbacks that were either started or played in an NFL game last year in 2022 and 2023. Last year was 66 different quarterbacks, and this year I don't know what the number's at yet. So I'll try to have that for next week. But yeah, to your point, just all the more uncertainty that it adds kind of into the market.
And I guess if there is one thing to feel good about. Cincinnati's defense sucks. And they had some pretty good success against that Tennessee offense,
Yeah.
including Rudolph.
Yeah.
And
Fair.
obviously Tannehill got benched in the game. You're getting a slightly better defense here with the Colts. So, I think that there is an angle there, that maybe that is the pathway, and maybe Richardson's more of a game manager. But you are getting a different, quote unquote, better defense, so to speak, here. And if that team is giving up, I mean, that team, that game, that Cincinnati game could have gotten a hell of a lot worse. Pollard got re-injured, so I don't know what his state's going to be in this game. But I mean, there are some there's it's not all negative. The model isn't just like guessing. But the mental model on this one feels like this is not something my mental model's betting for sure.
Sure. Fair enough. Yeah. All right. I don't. Yeah. Let us know what you guys think that are watching this either live or when you play it back later in the week. Yeah. Has the NFL been as finicky as we have been making it out to be? Let us know you guys' thoughts. So,
well, for sure. I mean, we know Vegas has lost. They lost a bunch at the early part of the season when favorites were going crazy. So I mean, just right there. I mean. And has that led books to do something that maybe they're not doing? I don't know. I mean, it's just been a really, really interesting. I think if we would be sitting closer to instead of 53%, 55% if we would have just bet on Tuesday, which is typically not normal for us.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, we shall see. We press on though. The battle wages on. No one's giving up, baby. We're here. We're staying here. So let's go.
We're profitable. Okay?
Right.
So if you're hearing this, yeah, you're probably not, and you probably haven't won, but we're used to seeing a certain way that the market works. And the thing that usually ensures that we're being, the most aware has kind of almost hurt us a little bit, but we are still profitable. We're still beating the market. It's just, we would be beating the market more. And it's part of that self-awareness. Like, oh, this is some of this stuff, like a lot of this stuff, the more and more you keep going, the more and more it gets nuanced at the higher and higher levels you go. Like when you have these blanket rules, sometimes you have to start paying attention and start, not breaking them, but understand how this may be a different situation.
Well said. Yeah. And hey, profitable, not even including the few prop bets that we've given out so far this year, as well as several of the futures that we got in the works and some that have already cashed as well. So, all right, we got one more matchup to cover for this week, and probably the best of the bunch this week, in my opinion. Let's talk about Philadelphia Eagles and the Washington Commanders here. So this one opened at 3.5 over at Circa. It is now at 3 as of a little bit ago. Haven't checked in the past hour or so, but our model leans in the direction of Philly. This one we make the number 5, so slight edge to that end. Again, not enough for us to take it officially, but here we are. So again, this is a phenomenal, in my opinion, strength on strength situation here. And once again, shout out to Tage. He was on a fucking roll today. He was putting out all kinds of bangers on Twitter. But again, for the season, like Washington offense 3rd, Philly defense 4th, Washington offense, or excuse me, passing offense 4th, 6th passing defense for Philly, 3rd rushing offense for Washington, 2nd rush defense for Philly. Yeah. So just like this quintessential divisional strength on strength. I'm really excited to see how this matchup plays out. But for me, Steve, this one, like the Philadelphia defense has really been just as impressive as the Washington offense has been impressive, or sort of unexpected, if you will. We talked about, if you think back to even just last year, the reason the Eagles had a rather precipitous fall off in the second half of the season was not because of their offense. It was because of their defense. It just started not showing up, basically. But this year they've been playing really, really well, really consistently, and you heard some of the numbers I rattled off here. So for this one, for the game to go Philly's way, or I guess maybe not necessarily Philly's way necessarily, but what's your feedback and thought process on how the game script goes in this one, and which team pulls out the cover here?
Yeah, I mean, I got to be honest. I really wasn't a Philly believer. I mean, the Philly team this year kind of reminded me of the Philly team 2 years ago. Not quite as extreme, but we talked about that strength of schedule and kind of how they kind of get through these games. And they weren't as good of a team as their record indicated. I'm kind of reversing course here. I think Philly is as good as their record indicates. And it kind of took me a while to get there. The Steelers game for me was really what put sort of nail in the coffin that this wasn't just sort of a fluke. And I kind of feel the opposite way about the Commanders. Listen, what they're doing is absolutely amazing. I think the Commanders are a legit team. We talked a couple of weeks ago about how Marshawn Lattimore getting signed by the Commanders to help shore up that pass defense is going to the defense in general is going to help. The Commanders make a push here. But what Washington is really good at is beating the bad teams they're supposed to be. The Browns, the Giants, the Panthers, teams like that, the Bears, quite frankly. And then when you look at teams where, the Ravens, the Steelers, some of those, more upper echelon teams, and I'm not saying they're a good team, but even the loss to the Cowboys, it's kind of a little bit of a concerning factor here as to what really is their ceiling. To me, this is a game where, you look at the numbers. Washington is definitely the way, more efficient offensive team. Philly has the better defensive team. I think what you're going to see here is the teams really play to their level. And what I mean by that is Philly kind of come out and take care of business because I don't think Washington is at that level. Now, this is a divisional game. Anything goes. Last year, when Washington looked like dog shit, we were on the Eagles and Washington ended up, cause us to lose that bet. So, never say never, but I think this is going to be more of the same. I expect Philly to roll here.
Yeah, I mean, Washington's defense is continually their Achilles heel, and it's only going to rear its head more and more. And in this game, and like when they played them the first time, that was the issue. They can score with the best of them, but they can't slow anyone down. And I mean, you saw last week with the Saints with a rookie quarterback. So I just it's hard for me to want to buy this. Now, the model tells some interesting stories when we remove the rookie designation for Washington's quarterback, you get a different story. You get this more of a pick 'em. But again, small sample size. You're only looking at 6 games or however 7 games. I think he's had on the road. Is this a home game or away game? Whatever he is, wherever it is.
This is in Washington.
This one's
okay. So home game. So I think he has 7 or 8 starts at home. So it's you get 2 different forecasts. So I don't know, but I think the defense is the thing that that the problem's not going away. Yeah. And look, covering though is tricky because what Philly showed us is they can get up, but they are like a boa constrictor. Their strategy was like, you're just never going to see the ball again.
Yeah,
we're not going to score necessarily, but you're just not going to have any possessions.
Didn't they close the game out with like an 8-minute possession or something ridiculous? 10 minute possession. Yeah. So talk about a quality drive. Yeah. I mean,
and 2 back-to-back. After that fumble, Pittsburgh saw the ball 1 time, and that fumble happened in the 3rd quarter.
Ooh, yeah, yeah. I know we're not. I know we're not talking about this game, but Falcons are benching Cousins. Penix is going to start.
That's good for we have under 9.5 wins, or maybe really bad for us if he's good.
Yeah, we'll see. So we'll have to take a look at that. Okay, sorry, I digress.
Yeah, nothing to digress. I think Washington is a problem. 25th against the rush here on Washington's defense. Eagles #1 rushing offense. That alone scares the shit out of me. Again, covering here, it's hard. 3.5. Washington always seems to be good for one of these crazy fucking games where they just somehow beat the Eagles specifically. So maybe this is part of the rivalry. But I wrote this down because I think this just exemplifies the problem. When we look at Washington offensive echo rate, 62% of their offensive drives get to the 40 or better. That is #1 in the league. Defensive echo rate for Washington, 48%, which is number 18, right? So they're not the worst, but like you can drive on them. You can score on them. And how are they haven't showed us 1 time they can win like super tight games, I guess, unfortunately, other than the Bears.
Yeah, fair. And to the point about Washington, yeah, they still pace the league in echo rate, but if it wasn't for like the otherworldly performances of the Bills and the Ravens offensively, like
sure.
the Commanders would still be top offense in the league. So it's not fair to say that they've regressed a little bit.
No.
I think a couple of other teams have just really like pedaled to the fucking metal. So it's
but their defense is nowhere near
nowhere near. Yeah,
what those other teams are. So
yeah, it's a problem for sure. But I mean, the market again, is pacing this one, or excuse me, making it a one score game. Basically a field goal game. So this should be a good fun one. I'm curious to see the strength on strength chess match, and maybe this is. I'm kind of glad too, or maybe one of you guys said it, that we're not necessarily on it, because this one has like coaching Nick Sirianni bullshit shenanigans written all over it. Like, if this is a close game, he's gonna do some dumb shit and help us not cover again. So I just want to see a good game in this one. So I'm excited for it. All right. That'll do it. 5 matchups in the book. Let's pivot a little bit. Let's zoom out and talk about the NFL landscape here. So bringing up our EPA chart here to week 16. Again, mentioned it, like, you have the Bills and the Ravens here, just again throwing off the scales in terms of offensive efficiency here. I mean, Bills, and I think Josh Allen's pretty much the runaway favorite now for MVP. So it's crazy what they're doing offensively. OU, what futures you guys have for Super Bowl winner? We had 2. We had the Jets, which is a DOA, obviously has been for a couple of weeks, but our other one that is alive and well is the Philadelphia Eagles, plus 1,500. Check this morning. Yeah, both of those tickets on the double dip methodology are worth more than ever so slightly more than 100% of both of the original value. So in a very good position, and with the just, I want to maybe kick this off to this conversation here, you guys, about the Detroit Lions and the just fucking really just frankly sad rash of injuries that they've had over the past couple of weeks. Like, how far do we expect them to even go now in the playoffs? Like, they were the team of destiny. They were the America's team, damn it. But now, I don't know.
Yeah, well, and we saw it all over social media. We didn't cover one game, and it was like, you're dumb, duh. The Lions cover. Now what? Where's your covers? When's the last time they covered? I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it sucks. I was really hoping we would see Detroit Buffalo Super Bowl, just because it would be like somebody's gonna win this thing,
like that game a couple weeks ago, or was it
last week? Yeah, last week was a brilliant game, and I'm not saying that games can't happen. We talked about that parlay, or that those two teams to win or to play each other in the Super Bowl was plus EV. But yeah, with every injury, that those chances become a little bit less. So I don't know. They'd still look really good. This is still a very potent offense, and you can see they're much better defensively than their counterparts. So I'm not selling the farm here. I think Detroit definitely can be competitive. And in the NFC, I don't know. I mean, like you said, you just rattled that off, Kevin. Like, the Eagles can do dumb shit. There's not even a politically correct way to say that.
And they have.
Yeah, we saw it last year where like they can go on it. At any point in time, this team could fall apart. I truly believe that. And so, that pathway in the NFC could look a lot different.
You are seeing these like anecdotal cracks in the foundation. Like, you had 2 weeks ago, the passing game, like, kind of weird discussion about that needs to be improving. AJ Brown bitching, right? And then last weekend, coaches like arguing with each other, someone potentially throwing a punch or something on the sideline, like weird shit, for a team that's 12-2, So at any moment, man, it feels like a straw that could break the camel's back.
That's Philly culture, baby. Like,
yes, you're right, dude.
People say brotherly love, and I always have to say, well, did you ever have a brother? They always just kick your ass. That's what brotherly love is. Your little brother, your big brother just beats the shit out of you. That's what brotherly love is. So, not surprised there. Obviously, was that Eagles win over Pittsburgh? I'm with Steve. Was did solidify, for as much shit I'm talking on Eagles, did kind of solidify. Yeah, this Eagles team isn't fluky. It is a team that is good and has a number of key wins, quite frankly, against really good competition. Kansas City, Mahomes looks to still be inevitable. We'll see how inevitable his ankles are. Interestingly enough, I thought this was crazy. When we ran the numbers, I ran the numbers with Mahomes for this week and Wentz, only 1 point difference. So just saying, maybe
Wow.
Wentz is the quarterback of destiny. Maybe he pulls a reverse Nick Foles.
Ooh.
Wentz goes down,
that would
Foles
be
comes
great.
in, wins the Super Bowl. Mahomes goes down, Wentz goes in, they win a Super Bowl.
I hope so. I really hope so.
And the gift that keeps giving. Last week we cashed under 8.5 wins to Chicago. This
Yep.
week we cashed Chicago Bears to not make the playoffs. They were eliminated. So, Steve, I'll give you as much time as you need, but give us your thoughts here. Is this is just the yearly aspects? Like we get to December, time to lose.
Not even December. Like it's just this has been a gift that's been in motion for 2 months now.
They've been defeated 0-8 since that Hail Mary against the Commanders.
Yeah. Since they had a 4-2 start, they've lost 8 straight. Yeah, kicked off with that Hail Mary loss. And obviously all the changes in the coaching staff. Well, we're gonna talk into this in the off the number segment. But I have a question. For me, I wonder, because Kansas City is one. Obviously, I don't want to doubt the power that is Mahomes, right? This is going to be the dynasty of destiny. But the Chiefs, to me, remind me of the 2022 Vikings, the 11-0 and 1-score games, the one that was just ridiculously on one side of variance that just was not sustainable. Do you guys get that vibe, or do you think the Chiefs are winning close games because they are that damn good, and they will sustain that throughout the playoffs?
I think
my only thing.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Kevin.
My only thing to add there real quick is I tend to agree with you, and I saw another interesting kind of nugget on that too. They are 13 straight wins in 1-score games, which is in NFL record. So like they are just on the right side of crazy variance and have been for seemingly some time now. So when does that kind of bob and weave or shift back to the other side? Maybe in 2025, maybe they just keep it rolling through the rest of the year. Who the hell knows? But yeah, it definitely doesn't feel, and the numbers bear this out as well. This is not just the vibes and the eye test thing either. But yeah, they've had a lot of good bounces go their way. So I'm not sold on them being the juggernauts of years past.
Yeah. So the biggest thing that, in my opinion, and shout out to Robbie and NFELO, who he asked this question, which is, when we look at quarterbacks and what is the differentiating factor for quarterbacks that are adding more, quote unquote, expected points and things like that. And you see that Mahomes' EPA added isn't like all that crazy different than other quarterbacks, specifically in the fourth quarter. But what he does add that is significant to other quarterbacks, specifically in the fourth quarter, is he makes plays that affect the win probability. And if you look at the same analysis, but you look at added win probability, you see a huge gap with Mahomes. Mahomes does things that win the game. We saw it in the Super Bowl. We see it every year in the playoffs. So look, I'm not saying they're not a little bit lucky, but I think this is the same thing with Tom Brady. There is this aspect of whatever you want to call it, GOAT status, where they just know how to do one or two things that allow them to win the game. Now, that's a whole different analysis than covering and all of that. Sure. But I don't know. But I mean, obviously with two high ankle sprains, or if he has even one high ankle sprain, yeah, he becomes a lot less inevitable.
Sure. We'll see. All right. Yeah. Only 3 weeks left in the season. Still a lot of spots to be secured and all that kind of fun stuff. But yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see what happens here in these last 3 weeks. So
5 futures we gave out: Chicago under, Cincinnati under, Minnesota over. All of those are cashed. Now we have Atlanta under 9.5. If they lose any games for the rest of the season, that will cash. And then we have over Saints 7.5. That looks to be dead. They'd have to win out. So my question is now that we got the news that they're going to go with Penix here, their schedule is quite easy. I think they play the Giants, they play the Commanders, I believe, and then they play maybe Carolina the last game. So they're not playing a lot of great defenses. Washington is our best bet, especially if they lose this week.
Yep.
But do you think we get that last loss with the Falcons?
Yeah. Give me 1 in 3 shot. Yeah, I think it happened. I mean, he's got 0.0 dropbacks, pass attempts, anything so far, right?
But he looks so good in preseason. They're like, we don't even need to see more.
Perhaps you're right. Yeah, but yeah, I'll take those. I'll take those odds any day of the week.
Oh yeah. It's so a good bet at this point at plus 120, mind you.
For sure. Yeah. So I'm not sweating that yet. So
yeah, spoiler or plot twist. Michael Penix, offensive rookie of the year in 3 games.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm worried about. And he's not going. He's going up against
we'll see.
Bad defenses.
Yeah.
Actually, 3 bad defenses. He's just going up against 1 good offense in Washington.
Hey, he's still got to perform. It doesn't matter. These are still NFL dudes. So we'll see.
Yeah.
All right, let's fast forward. We got 2 more segments to cover. Let's move to off the numbers real quick. So again, this is just our friendly competition. Up for grabs is a day spent at Waffle House for the loser. So we're nearing the end here, and it's getting kind of tricky because I'll have to double check you guys, because I have immunity as far as like the college version of it, but coupled with the NFL record too, could get dicey these last 3 weeks here, depending on what happens. So I talked about my angle earlier with Broncos money line, took them at plus 130. So that's my off the numbers this week. I'm 7-5. Steve, you teased it for a second. Hit us with your pick this week and what your rationale is.
Yeah. First of all, what do you mean you have immunity for?
It just came out. I don't know.
Waffle can hurt him.
I'll have to do the math.
I did some recon. The waffles are way bigger than I remember.
Yes.
This is going to be a problem.
Yes. I knew it. Anyway, I'll have to double check. But again, I think between my record, what it was in NFL in terms of units, one, and what it currently is now, I think a lot has to go wrong and a lot has to go right for both of you guys in order for me to hit rock bottom.
Well, I think I got screwed. I think one of those things already had to go wrong for me last week. Who's the committee I have to make my case to?
Yeah. We'll discuss offline. We'll get a committee hearing scheduled. Yeah, I got so my off the numbers is Bears first half team total under 9.5. This one is a plus 110 over at FanDuel. Make every moment more. So looking at this, the kind of logic here is, this Bears team is just offensively. Well, listen, both sides of the ball. I'm getting a little cute here, with just not taking a spread, especially full game spread here. But what I'm looking at here is over the last 8 games, we talked about this 8-game losing streak for the Bears. They've been shut out 4 times in the first half, and just more taking away the numbers here. Caleb Williams' offense, just for whatever reason, just cannot seem to get it going in the first half. And the second half, they sort of figure it out and they make these games a lot closer than really what the box score sort of suggests for how that game flow went. We've seen 3 straight divisional games. On top of that, Bears have been shut out here. I think the under 9.5 is very generous. I see maybe a couple of field goals or maybe one kind of fluke touchdown in the first half for this Bears team against the Lions defense. That is, yes, they've got some injuries, here and there. But this Lions defense is still pretty good. This is a game that the Lions did play the Bears close. Bears honestly should have at least sent that game to overtime. Horribly mismanaged on the final play of the game here. So it's not like you're going to catch the Lions here sleeping or, this quote unquote trap game. None of that should exist. Definitely doesn't exist this week. But what I do think exists is the Bears offensive struggle with Thomas Brown continue to rear its ugly head until, at some point over next season. I'm taking under 9.5 first half Bears team total.
Yeah. To the spread for the first half, they're plus 3.5 in the game. So,
yeah.
So, okay. All right. Yeah. Don't hate it. He's just the emotional. I don't know if you call this the emotional hedge, so to speak, but I like it. Rolling with it, baby. All right. Let's see. Bears under 9.5. Yeah, first half total. Broncos money line is mine. Seth, take us home, brother. What you got?
So I got a little bit of a checklist. Step 1: does the model show any value? And it does, and that's the end of the checklist. But I got an extra bonus that helped me here, which is I think we saw a lot of negative variance for the Bengals early in the season. They this is a team that played a lot of the best teams in the league. Basically, last play of the game they lost or they missed field goals, like just a bunch of negative variance. And so we're seeing a really potent offense, and you're getting a lot of these spreads at discounts, quite frankly. And so I think because of that, and then combine that with rookie, I think DTR's got one start and he was not good in that start. Quite frankly, I don't know that this is the time to throw him in, so to speak, because this Cleveland team doesn't really look like it's the real deal. But and they don't have a lot of play for. So I think all those factors play into that for me. So give me Bengals -7.5.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. So we'll see what week 16 holds, and we'll see who's gonna be sweating in their pants, sweating in their boots, whatever the fuck that saying is, last couple of weeks. And who is gonna be spending the day at Waffle House.
Yeah, and it might be a full day because those waffles are a lot bigger than I thought. Like it may be a couple days.
Woo.
And they're 24 hours.
We already established the top end is 18 hours. So if you just sit there and twiddle your thumbs, then
but if you go into cardiac arrest in the Waffle House, you're stuck there forever.
What a way to go. All right. That's off the numbers. Last segment, of course, let's talk and recap model predictions. So let's bring up the plays for this week. There's only two officially. Mentioned it earlier. The model is 35 and 31. That's good for 53% on the year. So technically, ever so slightly, we are in the green, baby. And we're hoping for another good week as well with these two plays here. So officially, I mean, Seth, just go through them too real quick for the good folks at home.
Yep. So we're playing Arizona -4, -110. And then, like I said, we're technically playing Colts -3.5, -110. We did give out a 4.5, so want to be fully transparent, but you can get a 3.5. We've actually decided to play that and take a little bit of a loss early in the week. So Colts -3.5, Arizona -4, both at -110.
Yep. So that's only small volume this week, and couple that with not having any college picks this week for the bowl games, and really none for the first round of playoffs either. We have a lighter load than we normally do, which is fine this time of year. But yeah, two plays officially, and hopefully we can go 2-0. We talked about not feeling so great about either of them, but hey, broken record, man. We've said it a million times. You never know what could happen.
Yeah, our feelings have no bearing on any of this, which is like the biggest experiment I think we could probably measure. In fact, when I like what I bet with using my mental model, I lose. So
right. So there you go. Or you're 6-6. You don't lose.
There you go.
They're losing the big.
Yeah, I've had some crazy bad beats.
Yeah.
I took Saints money line.
Last week might have been. Yeah.
I had last week both Saints. The Saints just
actually.
Oh yeah. Note to self: don't pick games with the Saints.
I guess
right?
so.
All right. That'll do it for us, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Appreciate the comments. Don't forget to like the video if you haven't already. Please also subscribe to the channel. If you can, helps us out a great deal. We appreciate everyone's support and engagement. We will be back. Regularly scheduled program for NFL Week 16 next week. It might be slightly different, I guess, maybe because it's going to be Christmas week. We'll figure that out. But there'll be something. I think you guys might be doing something over the weekend in Tucson. I'm not really sure. We'll see. There will be content next week. So we'll be back in some form or fashion trying to break down matchups, talk about value, model predictions, all that good stuff. So Seth, Steve, it's been real. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Everyone, till next week. We'll see you.
Take care.